Hello everyone, Monty here from IG, and it's time for our next big webinar. So we have a lot of information to cover today. Part one has to do with MT4 with IG. We're going to be looking at the differences between MT4 and with the IG platform, limitations, and also when it comes to products. But then of course we want to go through the platform itself in detail, and that means that we're going to get to know the account, the trading, the charting, Navigator, so on and so forth. And then all of a sudden things are going to start to get a bit heavy. It's because we're going to take it to the next level, and we are going to go through basic MQL4 programming. And once we get through with our basic program, the program is not going to be built for making money, by the way. Of course, it's meant for understanding understanding how MQL4 programming and the different functions that exist. But afterwards, we're going to backtest, we're going to forward test, and we're going to go into a concept called parameter optimization. A lot of fun stuff. If at any time you have any questions, let us know. I'll be looking at the screen to my side. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and let's get started. So when it comes to your MT4 account, a lot of you are obviously wondering, how exactly do I get it? Well, first off, it occurs after you've created your IG account. So your IG account is approved, goes live, and then you go to I've sort of put the mouse there. You go to add account, and then that gives you in order to get the MT4 option. And this I've taken straight off the website. Add an MT4 account, log into MIG, select another log into my IG and select add another account, choose to add the MT4 account, and there it is. You are good to go. So you get a maximum of 2 MT4 sub accounts with IG, just in case you need more than one. Charges, margins, all that good stuff is the same, but there are some platform limitations. MT4, it's not IG's very own, and that means that there's no guaranteed stop loss with MT4. That's the way the platform has been designed. So we talked about IG's trading platform, how you can use a guaranteed stop loss. This is from IG's platform. You're not going to get that with MT4. So whatever's limited in terms of as a platform itself, you're not going to find it on the MT4 platform compared to say the IG platform. The second thing has to do with the product offering. There is a lot more that's available when it comes to IG's trading platform. You got options, you've got ETFs, bonds and rates, so on and so forth. Even when it comes to commodities, there's a lot more commodities than you're going to get on the MT4 platform, and shares and so on. So in this case, when it comes to MT4, you're only going to get, there's FX, there's crypto. Well, you're going to have to look at the DB for those of you in Dubai, by the way. So just in case you guys are seeing something slightly different, has to do with jurisdiction, but you're going to see the FX, the indices, and the commodities. Now, I just want to point out, some of you, if you are looking at a demo account, or if you have been trading on an MT4 demo account, it may not show the correct margins. It may be showing you professional margins, for example. So if you see the leverage is a little bit different between demo and live, that might be the reason why. And of course, as I mentioned, for Dubai users, do note the C4X DB and choosing a .db product. As you can see here on the side, I've put a snapshot there just before you go ahead. And if you have any questions, there is under ig.com/AE, under the trading platforms, you will find a lot when it comes to MT4. But that out of the way, that's just the appetizer. Now it's time for the first course, and it's time for us to break down the platform. So first off, when you come into MT4, and I'm going to switch back and forth from the platform to this, as well as from programming, but I've done this as a presentation, kind of to organize our thoughts, both you and I, so that we sort of have a outline to go through. But I'm going to go to the platform, especially when we get to programming and strategy testing. We are going to have to go to the platform. But you got your market watch. That's where you see a bunch of symbols over there. You got your chart, the big bad boy right in the middle. And after you got the navigator on the bottom left, and then you got at the very bottom, taking up the bottom, it's the terminal right down over there. That's where you get the trades and the account history and the alerts and a few other things. Now, strategy tester is going to pop up from the bottom, but I'm going to discuss that later when we get to programming and backtesting. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at market watch. And in this case, it's here where you can actually arrange the symbols. I know when you first come in, if there's a ton of symbols, you actually need to just right click on there and then go to symbols. And what you need to do is you can go ahead and add and remove whatever symbols you want to have. You can also add the spread and the high and low if you want them there. So in this case, that's the spread, the exclamation mark and all that, and that's the high and the low. So that's if you want to see those, you can also see them on your market watch. And once you've, say, removed, let's say you removed a bunch of FX pairs that you don't need, and I'm going to do this when we get to the platform, then you can also save a set. So you know how you have your watch list with with IG's trading platform. In this case, you'd have to use a set, you'd have to go save as, and you can save different types. So I've just, as an example, I made Monty set, but you can make, I'll show you guys how to do it in a bit, but you can basically right-click sets and then you can save your set the way you like it. And then the second part, of course, has to do with charting your product. So how exactly do you get a chart onto the main? Well, one way to do it is you go to create a new chart. The second way, and then the second thing is you can also right-click here and on Euro USD and USD CHF and sort of chart it automatically. And the second thing is when it comes to the time frame. So all these items are usually at the top of the chart, within the chart when it comes to IG's trading platform and its chart. But in this case, it's at the top over here. So you can have, for example, M30 for a 30-minute chart, and you can also right-click on the chart, go to time frames, and you'll find 1 minute, 5 minute, 50 minute, 50 minute, 30 minutes, so on and so forth. You also have your zoom in and zoom out at the top over here, but you also can use zoom in and zoom out when you right click as well. That's also going to give you the option to zoom in and zoom out. You can choose, just like you can with IG's trading platform, candlestick chart, a bar chart, or a line chart. There's of course a mountain chart as well, which is basically a line chart with coloring below. That's on IG's trading platform, but all three are available as well over here. And I'm going to switch right now to the platform because I want to show you guys how to change the charting, because I know some of you may look at the coloring and go, okay, this is really difficult for me to follow. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the trading platform. Here we are, voila. And as I mentioned, your market watch, you can get a new order here. So let's say we want to pull out Euro USD, and excuse me, you're going to go ahead and pull out the chart window. And in this case, what we're going to do, you could make it smaller like over here and you'll have both of them here, but let's remove that. Let's expand on this. You're going to right click, go to properties, and over here, let's change the background just to make it similar to what we get in IG. Change the background to white, change the foreground to black. Let's change, for example, this, make the bar up and the bar candle like that. And then we're going to make the bull candle blue, the bear candle red, for example. You can make it green if you like, but depending on the colors that you like. And then we're just going to change some of these up. Just go ahead and click OK. We're going to switch this to a candlestick chart and we are going to zoom in. And one thing you can do as well, let me just go ahead and go back to properties and the grid, let's make it a bit grayish. And one thing I like to do is I like to add the period separators, which lets us show from day, from one day to the next. And there you have it. So what if you want to save this template? You just go right click and then you go to template, you go to save template, and I'm going to say, white on black template, for example. And then whenever I right click, whenever you open a new chart, so let's say I open USD CHF, you right click, you go to template, and you just go white on black, and it changes the template. And the same thing whenever you add any technical indicators, for example, the same thing will happen. It's going to add that technical indicator it's going to memorize it, and it's going to include it on your template. So let's go back to this, saving your template, which we just did, and then of course arranging your windows. So one thing you want to do over here is you can also arrange your windows using this right over here, arrange windows. You can arrange it like that, for example. And if you go to window over here at the top, you can also arrange them accordingly, cascade, tile horizontally or vertically. So finally, you can also save a profile. So how you can save a chart, but then afterwards, if you say, no, I want to actually save the entire profile. Like let's say you have your USD pound and you've arranged it the way you might have, for example, on IG's trading platform, and you want to sort of save the profile. If that's the case, you can actually come up here and you go save a profile, or you can go to file and you can save the profile. So let's go ahead and do that very quickly before we go back to that. Just file, profile. There's a number of default, a number of profiles here before, but I'm going to go save as, I'm going to call it Monty's profile. And now it's going to be saved. So it's going to be available right over here. So I can go back to, this is another one that comes standard with it. Just go ahead and change that. And one thing you can do, you'll find it here as well. You don't have to go to file every single time, but you can just go to Monty's profile, and we're back to Monty's profile. So let's go ahead and move on with the next section, which is the Navigator. And in this case, here you're going to see the live and the demo account, whichever one you've got, or if you've got both, and you just need to double click, and that means you'll automatically, that'll send you to the account, and then you'll log into that account. But the other three, which I want to talk about, is indicators, expert, advisors, and scripts. This has to do with, the last two have to do with programming, which we're going to go through in a bit. But when it comes to indicators, you just double click or you drag onto a chart like moving averages, MACD. And the same thing when it comes to expert advisors and scripts. And just to note, you guys are probably wondering, what are these? What's the difference? Expert Advisor, that's your algo basically that you programmed, but it's designed to execute on every new price that's received. So it keeps executing every time a new price is coming in. So if you have a program that says, tell me if price crosses above, for example, the 50-day moving average, then every time a new price comes in, it's going to run that test to see, okay, did price go above? Did price go above? Did price go above? Whereas with a script, it executes just once. An example of this, and I did this a while back, it's just writing a script that says, close all my open positions. So it just does it once. It doesn't do it every time there's a new price. It's a one-time, it executes one time. It's a one-time program, and it just closes out for example, your positions if you program it to do so. So we're just going to go flip right back to it. And in this case, if I've got indicators over here, and I just want to put, under trend, I want to use, let's say, moving averages. You just double click in this case. You choose a period, the parameters and everything, and there it is. It's over there. Right click, MA properties, and you can go ahead and change up your properties. But now we've got the moving average, the 14 1-hour moving average available right now on the chart. So let's go ahead and switch back to the presentation. Up next, it's the trading aspect. So now that you're able to really set up your charts, you're able to get the symbols that you want to see. You saved your template and your profile. Next part, of course, we have to get to the trading part. And here, similar to what you have a one-click dealing when it comes to IG's trading platform, you also have what's called enable one-click trading. You just right-click on the chart and you get one-click trading in, and you'll be able to trade right away off the chart immediately instead of having to always open an order. But if you do want to go through the order window, in this case, you just press F9, or you can double-click on the symbol in Market Watch, or you can just press New Order at the top, and you can come up with this. This window is going to come up, and it's going to show you, because I selected it from the symbol EURUSD, it's going to show with EURUSD, and you can go ahead and choose. Now, instant execution is similar to deal on IG's trading platform. That's where you're instantly executing. You're buying it right away, or you're initiating a sell position right away. Pending order is similar to the order tab on IG's trading platform. In this case, you're going to have 4 different types. You've got buy limit, you've got a sell limit, you got a buy stop, and you got a sell stop. Now, the difference here with IG's trading platform is there you just put sell or buy under order, and then you just choose, you put your price in, and you're good to go. In this case, you're going to need to decide if a buy limit is when you're setting a price below current market price, a sell limit if you're selling a price above current market price, a buy stop if you're choosing a price that's above current market price, and a sell stop below current market price. I know it makes it a little more confusing, like why do I have to select all 4? Why not just put a sell or a buy? Let me go and do it. But there is reasoning behind the differences between a limit and a stop, and between whether you're using, for example, a buy limit or a buy stop order. But long story short, that is what you do in order to execute those things. And finally, when it comes to trailing stop, trailing stop, you can put that into the order when you're doing it on IG's trading platform. Here, after you've initiated the order, you can then modify. You right-click and you can modify the order, and you can go ahead and choose as trailing stop to put it. So whenever you have an order that's pending or an order that's executed, so whether it's already been carried out or whether it's pending, you will find it at the bottom in the terminal. We're going to go ahead and switch back to that in just a moment before we can carry on to the second part, which has to do with programming. So let's come back over here and let's take EURUSD. And as I mentioned, enable one-click trading. This is going to enable one-click trading, and in this case, you can buy directly off of it. I've pressed buy, and the orders come down right over here. The second part we talked about was whether or not you want to do, let's say, an order type. So the 2 things you can do is, when it comes to initiating an order, I can either press F9. That's the first thing I can do. It's appeared on the other screen. Just a moment. Let me drag it over. You can press F9 to initiate an order. The second thing that you can do is you can go ahead and just where's a right click from, or you can, sorry, double click on the Market Watch EURUSD, and it'll come up. And of course, the new order button right over here, you just press that. So a number of ways to get to the same place, but bottom line is, when it comes here, you got instant, and then you got pending order, for example. So let's go ahead and put in a buy limit, and we're just going to put it at, let's say, 1:20:10. And you could put an expiry, just like we had with IG's trading platform. You can put an expiry, but we're just going to go ahead and let's say you can put a stop loss. So let's say I want to put a stop loss at 1:19.95. And one thing you'll notice is here you have to actually put in the price for everything. You can't just say 50 ticks away or $200 loss like you can with the IG's trading platform. In this case, you have to actually put in each one of them. And let's put a take profit. I'm just randomly putting things. Please don't copy the same thing when you're, if you're doing that, but we're going to go ahead and place this order. So the buy limit has been placed. We have a buy order already in place, and both of them, you can find them at the bottom over here. And if you want to put a trailing stop, you right click, and there it is. You can go ahead and put a trailing stop. Same thing when it comes to here, you can put a trailing stop on this one as well. So this comes down here into the terminal section. Your trades are here. Your account history is here. If you can go into all history. I think I did some here on this. Yeah, it's a demo account, but I've done before. It'll show you your exposure. And if you do set up alerts, you can set up alerts from here. You just right click and then you create an alert. Sorry, it keeps going to the other screen. Let me just drag it over. And in this case, you can choose, if you want to sound, what type of alert, and for how long, when does it expire, and on which product as well. So similar to what we saw with IG's trading platform, just a little bit difference when it comes to using certain items, but the concept is the same. If there's any questions with regards to the MT4 platform, I'd be happy to answer it. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next section, which is where we get into programming. It's going to get we're going to get a little deeper. We're going to go into programming, backtesting, and parameter optimization. So any questions with regards to, putting the indicators, or when it comes to charting, or when it comes to any other items? Okay, looks like it's straightforward. If that's the case, let's hop right into programming. And I want to point out, when it comes to programming, so I'm not a full-time programmer. I work as an analyst with IG, but I've been programming before, even outside of MT4. And I just want to let you guys know that if you're feeling intimidated, or if you look at the code and you're like, you have no idea what's going on, that's totally okay. First time I looked at coding about 20 or so years ago, I had no idea what was going on. I had to get, someone had to explain it to me to understand what was going on. I had to go through it again and again and go through a lot of practice, a lot of errors. It can be very frustrating at first, especially when you're creating your program and you end up with these coding errors, or you don't know why this is working or that's not, and errors not just in the code, but sometimes in the logic as well, because we're still new to the concept of programming. So that's how it was for me back then. And you get past that part, which is really nice. But I just want to let you guys know that if you're looking at this going, what on earth is going on? Or if you feel lost at all in any way, that's totally okay. First off, I have to put a disclaimer here. This basic program that I've done is not designed for profit making, or to avoid losses, or to hedge yourself, or risk parameters. It's got nothing to do with that. It's only designed to show the basics of MQ4 programming, and to do backtesting and parameter optimization. So I'll say it again. This is not designed for. I don't want you to write this one out and go, hey, it's making or it's not making money. It's got nothing to do with that. This is just designed for this webinar so that you guys can understand the basis of MQ4 programming, and so that I can show you backtesting, because we gotta run something on the backtesting program. So first off, when it comes to actually doing programming, you need to enable automated trading on MT4. And the way to do it is, I'm going to flip right back to the platform. You just go up top over here. It says enable auto trading. You enable it. The other way you can do is you go to tools, options, and then you go to expert advisors, and you just say allow automated trading, and then you click OK. It's already been allowed up here, but it's just quicker. You just go up here and you go enable automated trading. And the second thing you want to do is we need to open up MetaEditor. This is where we're going to be doing our programs. And to do that, it's right over here. You either press F4, or right over here, Meta quotes language. You click on that, and this will pop up. Now, ignore this for a moment. Don't worry about all this code, just a moment. One thing you can also do is right-click and pin it to your taskbar at the bottom. I do that just because if I want to hurry up, and so you can open it as a separate program. So if you're just in the middle of programming, you don't want to have to always open MT4, then open up the MQ4, the MetaEditor. You can just go down and just attach it as a separate shortcut. So let's go back to the presentation. And in this case, if you want to, what we're going to do is we're going to open up a new, I'm going to show you guys how to open up a new expert advisor, but I have the code already ready, so I don't have to rewrite everything all the way from the beginning. But one thing you want to do is you want to save it. It's going to be saved in your experts folder, and you have to, whenever you go ahead and make a new program, or whenever you alter your program on the MetaTrader, if your MetaTrader is open, you need to right click on expert advisors and Navigator and MT4, and you need to refresh in order for it to show up, and in order to refresh your code. Otherwise, if you, for example, have a program and you make changes and your MetaTrader is open, and what happens is, if you don't refresh, it's not going to incorporate the new changes. It's going to be working on the old algorithm that you created. So let me go back then in this case, and what we're going to do as an example, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to new, just to show you guys how it's done. And this keeps opening up in my other screen. I've got two screens open here, but you go new, next, and then you go, in terms of experts, we're just going to call it, for example, Monty's basic code, and then we're going to go next, and then we're going to go next, and then we're going to go finish, and it's going to show up. And over here in the Navigator, let's go ahead and expand on this. We've got Monty's basic code right over here. So it's come up in the experts folder over here. You can also right click and say open in folder. And once again, it's showed. Let me just drag it over. And you've got the three programs are out over here. So it's going to come out over here. But one thing I want to do is I want to go back to the MetaEditor for a second. Now notice it's not here, the new one that I just created. You have to right click, refresh, and now Monty's basic code comes up over here. And of course, we haven't coded anything, so if we place over here, nothing's going to happen, but that's over here. But if I do change any code, also, it's not going to change automatically. Every time you change code, come over here, refresh, and then run your backtest. Because it happens a lot where, I come over, I make changes, I come over and I run it and I go, oh, it's still not working. It's because I didn't update. It's a very simple thing. Always make sure you refresh afterwards. But let's go and let's flip back to expert advisor, to the presentation. And one thing I want to point out is that with any program, when it comes to program, because a lot of you might be new to programming, some of you might be a little more experienced, but with any program, you're essentially giving the orders. So, and when you give a wrong order, whether it's in the code or logic, then that means you could end up with an error. And whether it's an error in the code, MetaEditor is going to tell you I'm going to show you guys at the end when you're done with your program. If there's an error, it's going to tell you that there's an error. But when there's an error in the logic, so for example, in the logic is when you say, okay, I want you to buy whenever it crosses the 15-day moving average, but you've made a mistake in your logic where instead of it buying, for example, whenever it crosses the 15-day moving average, instead it initiates a sell. So your code is fine, but your logic is wrong. And that's the reason why a lot of times you need to double check your logic and run tests to make sure that what you wanted out of your program is actually what you end up getting. The other important item I need to point out is that when it comes to MetaTrader 4's expert advisors, it's not a time-based software. It runs on a new price change. And what that means is if a new Euro USD price comes in, then it's going to execute the program. So every time a new Euro USD price comes in, the program gets executed, fine. But that means if no new price comes in, no new action is going to be taken by the program, because if no new price comes in, the program isn't going to run. So let's say, for example, you put within your program, you say, okay, every 10 minutes, I want you to buy a position of Euro USD. Fine. But it's not going to execute unless a new price comes in for Euro USD. So, I mean, yeah, you might say, well, prices are always updating every millisecond, or every prices are moving all the time. Every second we're getting new prices, if not every millisecond. Yes, but sometimes if the market slows down for whatever reason and no new prices coming in, that means if you have a time-based strategy that says every second, for example, every few milliseconds, check for this or check for that, it's not going to check, it's not going to run until you have a new Euro USD price. So that's something, by the way, that's something that is limited towards MT4. So I don't mean that this is going to happen on any other platform, but this is how it is with MT4. This is how it's based. It's based on a new price. New price comes in, then you run the expert advisor. And when it comes to a script, it's a one-time run regardless of price. So in this case, it's going to keep on executing whenever a new price comes in, and if you create a script, and we're not going to do that today. We're just going to create. We opened an expert advisor, not a script. But if you do a script, it's only going to happen once. And the example I gave is if you run a script saying, I want you to close all my open positions. It's going to do it once. It's going to close them all. But if new positions open afterwards, because you've got other expert advisors running that are constantly executing your program, well, that means that new positions are going to open up, and you're going to need to run that script again. So what you can do is just have an expert advisor that can automatically close your positions repeatedly, for example. That's just one thing to keep into consideration. So that means that when you have an expert advisor, you need to include a limiter within the code. Otherwise, if the condition is met, what it's going to do is it's going to keep buying and selling. So for example, if you say, if price is below the moving average, I want you to sell. Okay, new price came in, price is below the moving average, it's going to sell once. Then a new price comes in, it's going to run again, it's going to sell again and again and again. So you need to put a condition in there that says, okay, if price is below the moving average, I want you to sell, and we're going to add another condition if we have no open orders. Because if we have an open order, then we don't want you to sell anymore. I don't want to keep selling, otherwise you're going to end up with 50, it's going to endlessly continue to initiate sell positions until you don't even have the balance or the margin to initiate any more new positions. And I'm going to go through this, by the way, in the code, so don't worry about it. The other item I want to point out when it comes to expert advisors with MT4 is, unless you're using a virtual private server, which we do have available with IG, you need to keep your computer and program running for the program to work. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, hold on a second. What if I open a buy position like we did right now? Let me bring back the platform. Okay, so what if I open this buy limit, and I've got the stop loss and the take profit, and then I close my MetaTrader, or I turn off my computer, and then I go to sleep, and I wake up the next day. If price comes down, isn't it going to initiate? And yes, it will, but that's because it's already built into the order that you've sent to the broker. If you have a program within your expert advisor, and you can do this, and I'm going to show you guys how to do this, if the stop loss and take profit, if that's built into your order and you turn off your computer, then that order is going to stay with the stop loss and take profit. But if it doesn't, if you initiate a program and say, I want you to buy, and you don't put a take profit or stop loss within the order, the algo has it, but it's not within the order itself. And I'll show you guys what I mean in a second. What's going to happen is that your positions are going to be open and the order is not going to execute anymore because you've turned off your computer. So your expert advisor only runs from your platform when your computer's on and your platform is running, unless you're using a VPS, a virtual private server. So that's another thing, and we have that's available. You can check more details online, but that's when you can turn off your computer, go to sleep, because that's going to be running on a separate server, your program. But if it's not, if it's on your own computer, the moment you turn off your MetaTrader, it's not going to run anymore. So don't wake up the next day and go, hey, how come no orders were executed? It's because you turned off your MetaTrader. You need to keep it on, and you need to keep your expert advisor on as well on the specific program. And I'll show you guys how to do that once we get past that. So let's go ahead and let's get to the actual coding. And once again, don't feel intimidated, a lot of information here. But what I like to do, the way to start is you need to tell yourself exactly what is it you want your program to do in very simple layman's terms. So I've taken this example over here, and I just said, if the 5-period moving average goes above the 25-period moving average, I want to buy with an 18 pip take profit and a 13 pip stop loss. And if the 5-period moving average goes below the 25-period moving average, I want to initiate a sell position with an 18 pip take profit and a 13 pip stop loss. So this is what I want to do. And I always recommend that whenever you're programming, always start with, put it in really layman's terms. What is it you want to do? And that will help you understand what code you need to do to get to that solution. What code is it that you like, and it also lets you know whether or not there are limitations or not. Sometimes maybe what you're asking it to do, there might be a limitation. Maybe the program itself doesn't have that capacity, but a lot of times breaking it down, just put it into layman's terms for yourself. That's a good way to start. Now, anything inside, we're going to start with on tick. So whenever a new tick comes in, it's going to run this function, void on tick. And I'm going to go back to the MetaEditor and show you guys what I'm talking about. But anything inside is going to execute. Every time a new price comes in, it's going to execute from top to bottom, unless the code excludes something inside the bracket. So it's going to go from top to bottom, and I'll show you guys in a moment what that means. And the next part, of course, has to do with when it comes to programming in general, you are creating the variable, and then you're telling the program what to do when one variable reaches something else. So in our example over here, I need a 5-period moving average, I need a 25-period moving average, I need the values of those two, I need a 18 pip stop loss and take profit, so I need a buy order and a sell order. That kind of is what I need, but I want to create a variable that tells me what the 5-period moving average is and what the 25-period moving average is, so I can know if one crossed above the other. And here you need to create your variable and classify the type of variable that it is. If it's an integer, so if it's just a number like 5 or 6, and usually I use that for if you want to limit the number of orders. So let's say you say I want to have a limit. I don't want to have more than 5 orders, for example. You can use an integer because there's no such thing. You don't have 5.5 orders. It's either 1 order, 2 orders, 3 orders. So integer. Then you have a real number, which you use double, and I'll show you guys all this when we get back to the MetaEditor. But double is when you're using something with decimal places, or a real number. So a moving average, it's not going to be 120, it's going to be 120 point something something. So we're going to need to classify it as a double. You've got a Boolean variable, and that's if it's true or false. And you've got text if it's a string, and then you've got date and time. And just so you guys know, for more information about all these items, you can go to docs.mkl4.com, and there's also a book there, book.mkl4.com. A lot of useful information when it comes to understanding the different functions out there and how to use these variables. And as a side note, you can also put comments to clarify what it is you're doing. And it always helps whenever you're building really large programs. So let me go ahead and go back to the MetaEditor. In this case, we created the first one, Monty's basic code. And in this case, we really just need the void on tick function in this case. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to clear this. And inside, we don't really need these either. And I've created the program already, which is over here. It's within the void on tick function. But what we can do is we're just going to very quickly, I'm going to go and just say, so, and a lot of time when you do this, this basically, and it turns gray, means that whatever you type here is not going to be affected by the program is not going to read it as code. So it's not going to go ahead and run anything. So if I, I can put blah, I can just put whatever I want here. I can say, I'm going to create a program that shows moving average crosses, for example, and then I can go ahead and start with the code. So in this case, when it comes to the code, let's go ahead and I'm just going to take one piece of this at first. And what we're doing is we are creating a variable. What I need to do, and I need to create the 5-day moving average, right? Because that's the whole. We're trying to do the 5-day crossing the 25-day. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create. I'm going to create the 25-period moving average. So I want to create a variable. In this case, I'm going to call it moving average slow underscore slow. And I'm going to set it equal. I'm going to say, well, every time the new price comes in, it's going to run this program. So what do you want to set this variable equal to? Well, I want to set it to the 25-day moving average. And you see this whole thing over here. You're going, oh, what's going on over here? What you can do is you just click on whatever function it is you want to know about. You just press F1 for more detail. And I'm going to bring this up over here, and I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see. But this is the IMA. The MQL4 has this built in where it calculates the moving average indicator and it returns its value. And it tells you exactly how to write it. It tells you what the first one has to be your symbol, the second is your time frame, and it should be an integer. The third is the period, the shift, the method, applied price, and the shift, and so on and so forth. And when you're writing it in, so let me go ahead and start writing it from the start. But when you're in this case, when I go ahead and go IMA and then I go, it tells you right over here what each of them need to be. So at first I want it to be a symbol. So I'm going to go underscore symbol, which means the current symbol. So I want it to be for Euro USD's moving average, not the pound or gold or something else, because you can run a different symbol, get the moving average of a different symbol in this program. But we don't want to do that, right? We're going to take this, we're going to use the symbol of whatever program I'm placing this on. So we're going to take the current symbol, and then we're going to take the period. I want it to be the current period. So if I put this on a daily chart, it's going to run a daily, it's going to give me a daily moving average. If I put it on a 1-hour chart, it's going to give me the hourly moving average, so on and so forth. And then in this case, how many periods do you want to calculate? I want to calculate 25 because I want the 25-period moving average, and I don't want any shifts, and I want it to be simple moving average because you can use exponential moving average, but we're going to go ahead and use simple moving average, and I'm going to use the close price because you can calculate, the reason why this comes up is you can calculate the moving average based on different, whether you want the high, the close, the low, but usually it's calculated based on the high, and that's, usually calculated based on the close. And then finally, I want it to be the current moving average, not the one before, and then you put the semicolon at the end, and that's done. So I basically retyped this again, but you can see that that's how we calculate the moving average. So now every time it runs, it's going to give me the 25-period moving average based on the close price over the past 25 periods of the current period, the current time frame that this expert advisor has been placed on, and for the current symbol. And what I've done here is I've created for the rest of the strategy. So what we do is we then create the 5-period moving average, and then we create the 25-period moving average, but 1 period prior, because we want to see if there's been a cross, right? We want to calculate if the 5 is going below or above the 25, which means we need to know what the values were before and what the values are now. Because if the 5-day was below before the 25 and now it's above, that means we've now had a cross, right? There's been a cross. And in this case, we're going to create another variable called double moving average slow. In this case, it's going to be the previous one. So it's the 25 period, same thing as before, but we're going to put 1 here, which means it's 1 before. So 1 shift, 1 prior. And the same thing when it comes to the 5-period moving average. By the way, guys, if you have any questions, feel free again to ask. And so that's when it comes to creating our variables. That's this up here. And I'm going to zoom in for you guys, just so you guys can go ahead and see that. But this is going to be the 4 variables that we're creating. And up next, and you could put a comment, by the way, using the comment function. And once again, I'm going to press F1 so you can see what it does. This function outputs a comment defined by a user in the top left corner of the chart. All you have to do is put void, you put this, you put that in the first value, and you put your next value, so on and so forth, and it'll give you examples as well of how to use it. But let's go back, and in this case, you could comment. I can say, for example, the slow moving average, the current, the fast, and it'll come up at the top. So that's when it comes to that aspect. Let me go ahead and, so really 2 parts. The first part is when it comes to creating the variables. The second part is when it comes to putting the comment. And the third part is now when we come to the condition. This is the if statement, so to speak. And in this case, we need to check now if there's been a crossover of the fast over the slow. And to do that, let me just go ahead and put some space here so you can see if the moving average, the fast moving average previous, so the 5-day moving average was below the previous 25-day moving average, and this is the saying, and that's an additional condition. So this is the first condition, and the current fast moving average is above the current slow moving average, and the total number of orders that we have is 0. So we have no, because we don't want to keep on initiating orders. If that's the case, we want you to go ahead and we want to do a buy operation using, and you use that using the function order send. Press F1, and once again, it'll explain to you how to use this and how to, but basically you're saying, I want to open, this is the symbol, so I want to open a, in the current symbol, a buy position, op buy. If you want to sell, it's op sell, which we're going to show in the next right over here, op sell. I want it to be one lot at the ask price, slippage 5, and I want it to be the for the stop loss and the take profit, I want the stop loss to be the current ask price minus 13 pips times point, and for the take profit, I want it to be 18 pips, the ask plus 18 pips times the point, and don't worry too much about the other features, but this is basically the nub of what we need. And then the same thing if we want to have a sell position, if the opposite occurs, if the 5-day moving average before previous was above the previous slow moving average, and currently the 5-day moving average is now, if it was above below, but now it's below the 25-day moving average, and we have no open orders, then I want you to go ahead and I want you to initiate a sell position. So now instead of op buy, it's op sell, and instead of the ask price, we're using the bid price, and we have our, and instead of here, the stop loss was the ask minus 13 pips. Here it's going to be, because it's a sell position, it's going to be the bid plus 18 points. That's going to be, so the stop loss is the bid plus 130, and the take profit is the bid minus 180. And then what we're going to do is at the top here, we don't need this extra space that I made. I just did that to explain this. You're going to go over here and you're going to click on compile. So you hit compile, and there are no errors. But let me give an example where there is an error. So let me just remove this column over here and just go ahead and compile, and there it is. It says unexpected token, saying that you've got an error over here, and that's because before I didn't put a colon at the end, semicolon, excuse me, at the very end, and there you go. Let me run it again, compile, and we're clear and we're good to go. So let me go ahead and go back now, and what we need to do here is we need to refresh, right? So we need to go ahead and refresh, and now we've got, the code was called MA test, so this is the one that I have over here. If I don't need this one anymore, I can close it, and I can also delete it. I can say, okay, Monty's basic code, I don't need this one anymore. And to remove it from here, you just have to go refresh, and now it's gone because we've got, okay, that's just a moment. I want to see why is it that it hasn't gone. Oh, it's here, Monty's basic code. Okay, let's go back to Expert Advisor and refresh, and it's gone now. So let's go back then to the presentation. You can just press F1, and a lot of you might be thinking, why should I put a comment? Because a comment might, I just want to write the code and get going, but a lot of times it really helps organize your thoughts. So I definitely recommend putting a comment, explaining to yourself why you put that line of code. I do that all the time, even though I know it inside out, but I still do it all the time. And again, you just press F1 if you want it on the function, or like IMA or order send or comment, to get the details on what it means, and that'll help you, and it'll give you examples on how to use it, and so on and so forth. So for this next section, now that we have a program, the next section has to do with backtesting, forward testing, and parameter optimization. So let me go ahead and I'm just going to take this slide to explain the difference between them all. Backtesting is taking your strategy and testing it on historic data in the past. Very, very important, and which we are going to do via strategy tester on MT4. You just go to view strategy tester. I'll show you guys in a second how to do that, but that will open up strategy tester, and you'll be able to backtest your strategy. Forward testing involves using your strategy in a simulated but live environment. So it's not past price, but a current live environment, which you can do by just taking it, dragging the expert of a product in MT4 onto the chart, onto your USD, for example, and doing it in an IG demo account, because you want to do it in a simulated environment. Very important not to test it on a live account. You want to use live prices, but you don't want to use a live account. You want to use a simulated account to double check your code and to double check your strategy and to see if it works. And both are crucial. A lot of you might be thinking, well, why not just do Backtesting. Well, without forward testing, backtesting is limited to a sample of historic data. It's a lot of data. It could be over a 2-year period, and I'll show you guys how to do it in just a second. But the thing is that markets are always changing. So if you were doing this when markets are relatively consolidatory and now markets start to get volatile, well, that means that your strategy might fail because it did really well during a period, a period when you were backtesting where it was all consolidatory moves, and now now markets are getting very volatile, ranges are widening, and now all of a sudden your strategy is losing, and that might be the reason why you tailored your strategy during for a backtest environment where it was consolidatory moves, when now you've got markets are always changing and now you've got a volatile situation. And forward testing, by the way, the reason why you shouldn't just forward test and ignore back testing is because forward testing may not provide enough live market data without taking up a lot of time. I mean, right, with back testing, you can do 2 years of testing on your strategy within seconds, and it's done. You know exactly how it's done over the past 2 years. Forward testing, you want to do back testing and then you want to start forward testing, but you don't want to forward test, for example, 2 years into the future, when you could have just done some back testing, and that would have given you a lot of information in a very, very short period of time. So it's very good to back test, but then turn around and start forward testing as well. It's not a good idea to do one without doing the other. Otherwise, you might be missing out on a lot of crucial information. And then finally, parameter optimization, which I am going to go through. And this is really about getting the best number for your parameter. So do you remember in our example how it's 5-day moving average and the 25-day moving average? Well, what if you wanted to run the 6-day on the 25-day, the 7-day on the 24-day moving average, the 20-day on the 10-day moving average, the 15 on the 30-day, for example? You don't want to manually put in the number every single time, right? To put in every single moving average, every number every single time and run all these different combinations. There is a way with MT4 where you can use parameter optimization. It optimizes, it tells you what the best parameter combination will be for that period of time. Again, just because it was the best period of time in the past doesn't mean it's going to give you the best results in the future, but that's what parameter optimization is for. So when it comes to backtesting, and we're going to do this in just a second, but a few things is, first off, make sure you select the right expert advisor up here when you're selecting. It's happened where, I might accidentally choose the wrong one and I go, what's wrong with the results? And I have to reiterate that if you make changes in MetaEditor, make sure you refresh it. Once again, go to Navigator, refresh, because otherwise you're going to be testing again on a previously edited algorithm. So edit your algorithm, make it like a habit. Edit your algorithm, save it, compile it, go to expert advisors, right click, refresh, and then run a new back test to see if the results have changed. Otherwise, you're just going to be running on the same algo over and over again, and there won't be any changes. Second of all, select your symbol, because MT4 is not going to tell you if there's a problem. You're going to have to figure out, if no results come in, it's because you haven't selected a symbol. It happened once to me, by the way, where I forgot to select the symbol, and I was wondering what's wrong. Is something wrong with my program? It's because you need to select the symbol. And then, of course, when it comes to the way which model you want to choose, the most precise is to choose at every tick. I'm going to show you guys in a second, but it does mean that you're going to need to be a little patient. It might take a bit longer to get the results that you need. And when it comes to selecting your dates over here, you want to select dates that involve both volatile and consolidatory moves, so you're not testing under just one scenario, because otherwise if you choose just like 1 or 2 months, then it's like, oh, well, things were very consolidatory back then, so my range trading algorithm, for example, did amazing, and my trend trading algorithms did horribly. Well, the reason why is because you chose a very, very limited period. So choose a period that's both volatile and consolidatory. And also, it's not a bad idea, especially when you're first testing your algorithm, consider visual mode. In this case, check on visual mode if you want to see visually how your algorithm's performing. It won't change the results at all. Lastly, when it comes to this, the spread, you can put current spread, but keep in mind that if you're testing on a weekend, right before the weekend, the spreads might widen just because the markets get very, very illiquid and no one's trading anymore. So the spreads widen, which means if you want to test your spread, test your algorithm, you want to test it on a spread that's the average spread. So keep in mind that if it's the weekend, you're doing strategy testing, which you can do on the weekend back testing. It's not going to be reflective of actual spread, so you might want to go ahead and just make sure it's the right spread when you go ahead and do that. So results are going to be available both as a table. It's going to be under you go to graph and results. You can go to results and check the table, which we're going to do in a second. You can also do a graph, and it'll show you right over here, your balance and your equity, how it went up and down throughout the period, throughout all of your trades, and where it ended. So you start, for example, with a sample of 10,000, and it ended up at 9,200. So this one lost $800. Again, we designed this for the sake of understanding programming, not for the sake of trying to make money. So let's go ahead, now that before we get to forward testing, let's go over here and let's go ahead and run our strategy. So what we do is we go to view, we're going to go to strategy tester. I click on strategy tester, and notice the one I want isn't there. I want MA test. We're going to click MA test. I want to do on Euro USD, and the method I can do every tick, but it's going to be a bit slower. I'm going to use the date 2018 to 2021. I'm going to use visual mode, and let's go ahead. Oh, you can use whichever period you want, a 15-minute, 1 hour, a daily. So let's go ahead and use the 1 hour. Let's go ahead and start. This might be a bit slower if I'm using the 1 minute. Just a moment. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and go with open prices only just to make it a bit faster so we can run this. But oh, sorry, I clicked optimization. That was my mistake. I had the optimization open from before, and now it's starting to run. So let's go ahead and you can press pause. This is the pause button. So let me go ahead and stop. I'm going to start all over again. So you see what happened was I clicked optimization, so it was giving me the optimized results. We're going to get to that in a second. So that I kind of skipped ahead. I left that check the optimization. So keep that. You know, you're not looking at optimized results. You want to actually run it. So this is the chart. It's going to come up right now. Euro USD 1 hour, and let's run this again. And let me unpause. See, this is the play and then the pause. Let me go ahead and make it a bit slower. But you can see now, look at how it's running right now, and it's showing you the moving averages. And the moment we have a cross, bam, there's our trade. Let me go ahead and, okay, let me pause. So there it is. Once it crosses over, you've got your trade. That's your position, as well as and in the top, it's showing me what the fast moving average, the slow moving average, so on and so forth. And then you got your take profit. That's my take profit up here, and that's my stop loss right over here. Because remember how we specified the take profit and the stop loss? So let's go ahead and play. And a lot of times it's not bad, and I'm going to speed this up just a little bit, but let me speed it up a little. You could just drag, see this thing over here that I'm dragging? That will make it go slower and faster. So if you want it to go a bit faster, you know, oh, excuse me, I zoomed I went all the way to the end. Let me go ahead and start this again. So now all of a sudden you can go ahead and see, and there it is. You can check and make sure that it's working. Always a good idea to test your algorithm in visual mode just to make sure it's doing what you ask, and to run it under, you know, just to, because otherwise if you skip to the results, it could be that there's an error in your logic, and you're looking at the results going, oh, okay, but it turns out uh, you hadn't double checked. And a lot of times visualization will really using visualization mode will really help you. So there it is, about to cross, the moving averages cross, bam, we got a trade, and then we got another trade. But one thing you can do also is, I'm going to just go back to, you can change the take profit and the take profit and stop loss. So let's go ahead and change this, for example, to 20, the stop loss, and we're going to make the take profit 30. We're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to make it 20, and we're going to make it 30. By the way, you can turn this into a variable up here. You can create a variable, and then you can just change the variable instead of having to change over here every single time. But I was just trying to make this easier. Compile, we've got no errors. Let's go to refresh. We don't want to end up running the wrong one again. Refresh now, and then we're going to go ahead. Let's go ahead and start all over again. Let's press play. There. So see how it's much bigger now? That's because we increased the stop loss and the take profit. So you could create a variable out of that. So what you would do here is you would just change, you know, we could just say integer take profit equal to 300 instead of putting that down there, and then integer stop loss equals to 200. And then what you can do is, instead of putting 300, you put take profit. Oh, that shouldn't be capital. So you got to make sure your letter is correct. Take profit and stop loss. So that's just one thing that we can do. But for the next item, what I want to do is forward testing. So let me just, before I do that, let me go ahead and remove this for now. Just want to, I'll keep this here for now, but let's just go ahead and keep that. So what about when it comes to forward testing? I'm going to get to parameter optimization, by the way, for those of you wondering. Just a moment. So when it comes to forward testing, so we know how to backtest now. How exactly do we forward test? It's actually very simple. Just take your expert advisor. In our example, it's MA test, and just drop it onto a 1 hour or 4 hour chart, for example, on an IG demo account, and that's it. You know, but it's very important if you're doing forward testing. And I used to do this as well. Open up a notepad and just jot down your notes. Say what's your balance at the start of your forward testing session, so you know if it made money or not. Because if you know, in this case, I'm running a demo account. So let me go ahead and just close these positions for a second. Let me close these. Let me just delete the order. Okay, so then it's 9953. So what you want to do is, maybe a lot of times I would have like a notepad or something. I'm just going to drag this over. I'd bring a notepad and I'd say, for example, balance is 9953, and then I put the date. The date, for example, is March 2nd, for example, 2021. And you want to put all these details down, and you want to know how long it ran for, how well it did, what was there that day, if there was some news or something, and that helps you. And note, for example, maximum drawdown, so on and so forth. So after you run a back test and you go, okay, this made money, or in that case, it lost money, but it made money. Then you run a forward test, and then you can have a better idea of what days it performs, what days it doesn't, so on and so forth. So this last part has to do with parameter optimization. One thing I just want to do when I go back to the strategy tester, I forgot to say, just go to results. If you want to look at the results of your strategy, for example, just a moment. Let's remove visual. Let's stop. Remove visual mode. I'm gonna start it, and then you go to results, and it'll give you all the trades that were carried out. You scroll down, you can see all the trades over here. But what you can also do is you can go to the report. It gives you everything: gross profit, net loss, total net profit, absolute drawdown. It'll give you all those items. And then I like to look at the graph as well to see how it's fared overall. Now, again, we created this for the sake of, and I think the results here are worse than when the stop loss and take profit was 13 and 18. But again, you can change your combinations, but I just ran this for the sake of helping us understand. So, but for the last item that we want to go through tonight has to do with parameter optimization. To do this, first off, you need to tweak your algorithm to make the 5 and the 15 period moving averages, or 25 period, if that's what you're using, a variable. What I mean by this is, I'm going to show you guys how to do that in a second. Let me go ahead and shift back. We're going to come back here. And I've already created it on this next one, MA test parameter optimization, but I'm going to show you guys what I mean. Here, we put in 25 and we put in 5 for the moving averages, right? 25 and 5 for the slow and fast moving averages, and 1 period apart in terms of the variables. What you do here is, instead of putting 25 and 5, you go extern integer MA slow 25, extern integer MA fast 5. So what you do is you create variables, and then instead of putting 25 and 5, you put these variables inside here. The reason why is because if you're doing parameter optimization, it needs to optimize certain parameters. You need to classify, you need to label and say, these are the parameters I want to optimize. So in this case, it's MA slow and MA fast, and we put 25 and 5. And when you do parameter optimization, it's going to plug and chug different numbers. So what you need to do simply then is just change it from, and you, by the way, you could do this for take profit and stop loss as well if you want to get a better idea. But this is what you can do for MA fast and MA slow. For the moving averages, you need to change it and just put extern integer MA slow 25, extern integer MA fast 5, and then just plug and chug this into these over here instead of 25 and 5. But let's go ahead and run parameter optimization. And to do that, what we need to do is, you remember how I had it checked optimization? You need to check that box. And you also need to then select expert properties to adjust. And this is what you can adjust. It'll let you adjust your variables, MA slow and MA fast. If you check both of them, MA slow and MA fast, it means that you're going to be optimizing both, because you can say, no, I want to optimize 1 on a 25-day moving average. So I want to test 6 on a 25-day moving, 7, 8, 9 on a 25-day moving average. But then you can also say, no, I want to test both. I want to optimize both. I want you to change, give me better combinations for both the slow and fast moving averages. And the start is for what value you want to start at. So if I want to start the slow one at 5, the fast one at 1, and then step is how much do you want to raise the value. So for example, from a 1 period moving average to 2 period if the step is 1, but if you put a step of 2, for example, it's going to test the 1, the 3, the 5, the 7, if that's making sense. So the step tells you by how many steps do you want to move up, or do you just want to move up by 1, or do you want to move up by 5? Do you want to test a 5 and 10 and 15, or do you want to test a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? That tells you what the step is for, and the stop is for how high you want it to go. So if I say I want the fast moving average to not, I want it to start at 1, test me the 1, the 2, all the way up to 15, but not above 15. And for the slow moving average, I want you to start at 5. I want you to move up by 1, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up to 30. So that's what you can do on that. And then afterwards, you can check on the optimization results. It'll go ahead and show that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to switch back. And this time around, we're going to run the other program. We're going to run MA test parameter optimization, because this gives us the ability to optimize our parameters. We're going to select parameter optimization. We've got, we're going to do it by, let's do by open prices for now, but although it's probably best if you go by every tick for more precise, but we're going to go with open prices, because just for the sake of this webinar, because that would take a bit longer time. We're going to select expert properties right over here. Let me drag over let me drag the window over. And in this case, you could say, I only want to optimize slow. but we're going to optimize both. We're going to start the slow one. Let's start the slow one off at 10. We're going to start the fast one at 3, for example. I want it to go up by, let's say, 2, and I want it to go up by just by 1. And I want you to take it up to 30 and this up to 15. And then you go, OK. So you go back. Those are going to be your expert properties. And let's go ahead and start our test. Now, in this case, we're going to go to optimization results and optimization graph. But look at optimization results. It's going to tell you right over here at the bottom right corner over here, MA slow 26, MA fast 14. With a 26 slow moving average and a 14 fast moving average, this is Euro USD 1 hour chart during that time period of a back test. We had a drawdown. It tells you your drawdown 8.42, and it tells you what the profit was, 1,210. And it tells you for each of these combinations, which is really cool. You know, in this case, there was no profit for these 3 combinations. There was a drawdown, and you can also organize it by drawdown. If you say, okay, I want what was the least drawdown? The smallest was 6.81 with a profit of 750, and the combination was 26 and 7. That's pretty neat, right? I mean, instead of you plugging and chugging every single combination, this is doing it right away for you, almost instantly. Of course, I would definitely recommend that when you're using model, don't use open prices only. I only did this because I need to calculate quickly for the sake of the webinar. Strongly recommend you definitely need to do every tick. So the most precise method based on all available least time frames to generate each tick. So it's going to check tick by tick instead of just looking at the closing prices. So I would strongly recommend you use every tick and do it again. But it's going to take quite a bit of time. It might, especially if you're running optimization, it could take a really long time calculating. For the sake of our webinar, we're running out of time, so we're not going to do it that way. But it's quite interesting how you can see how parameter optimization is a real boost for those of you that want to figure out what combination might work best. So with that in mind, I know this was quite heavy in terms of programming and all, but if you have any questions, let me know.